Everyone, welcome back to the workshop. And I have been a little bit quiet the past couple weeks because I've been kind of shuffling a lot of things around out in the shop. Haven't been getting a lot of actual work done, but kind of rearranging things so that in the future it's going to be easier for me to be working on projects and working on more than one laser at one time. So a lot of this meant that I needed to reshuffle my exhaust venting for the smoke and such out of the lasers. So went ahead and basically pulled everything out, started over, and so I'm going to show you what I did, and we'll see how it works and see if it gives you some ideas of how to do it better in your shop as well. So. All right, so here we are. This is a different view than you've seen in my shop because I've kind of taken what I had on this wall, moved most of it out of here. Still have some bikes hung up here because, like many of you, I am working out of my garage, and so there's still some family things out here that need to get stored. But I'm hopefully going to be able to move these out of the way because this is going to be some storage space as well that I can use in the future. But what I've been working on mostly the past couple weeks is, first off, clearing some of the stuff out here. So I used to have my CO2 laser here and had it venting out there as well. But not using that older laser as much and thinking about either moving it out of the way into a different spot out here, or might not even be needing it, as I'm finding the extended diodes and the X-Tool P2 are really meeting the needs of myself so far. So we'll see where that machine ends up in the long run, but for now I wanted to get some space set up here that I can run a couple lasers, have it all vented out, and have a little control over that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over on the end where the exhaust is. We'll work our way back to the lasers. I'll show you what I did, and then we'll see how it works at the end. So let's zoom in a little bit closer and check out the fan and the outlet port area. All right, so over here we have the inline fan, and I have my outlet port over here. Now, my original fan, I just had a 4-inch port on it, and that's what I'm kind of sticking with until I really am sure that this is how I want to run with it. But I did end up getting this 6-inch fan from Han & Guan, and the reason I went with that route is it'll give me more flexibility down the road. If I expand this to a 6-inch outlet and also branch off with 6-inch piping, this fan is actually rated at about 469 CFM, and I know because I've got it choked down on both ends that I'm losing a fair amount of that, and I'm putting a little of extra strain on the motor itself. But I don't plan on keeping it this way forever, and you know, we'll maybe get a 6-inch outlet going soon, as well as branching off here so that it's balanced a little bit more. But for now, it's definitely pulling more than your typical smaller 4-inch inline fan. And the thing I like about this style is that this fan center unit is actually serviceable. So there's a few different styles. Some of them have like a bolt-in clamps. These have more of kind of these removable zip tie straps, so they just kind of ratchet in, but you loosen these from the clips, and then this whole center unit will come out. That gives you easy access to the fan. You can clean it, you can service it, but then these rings here really lock it in, and it should seal fairly well. We'll see over time if this one works well in this application with exhausting smoke, because you definitely want a good seal on there, but it does slide into this fairly well, and that makes a pretty good seam. If you were concerned about it, you could probably add in a little bit of tape in here. The brackets do kind of enclose it on this side, so you're only going to do that so much, but we will see, like I say, over time how well this works. But we can easily just lock this back in place, tighten those down, and that should form a nice tight seal on there. Now, I have also gone ahead and added some sealant wrap around a lot of the joints, and I've used a couple different types of sealant. So I'm using, in a lot of places, the aluminum flashing tape that you would for HVAC, and that does work well. It sticks down well. But in some cases, I also end up using electrical tape. It's nice and flexible, and if I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be a permanent joint, it's a little easier to remove than that aluminum flashing tape. It's also got a little more stretch and give, and so I just feel in some cases it actually works better. I wouldn't use this in an outdoor environment. The sun would definitely degrade that over time, but in this case, it does work pretty well. But you definitely want to try to get as many of those things taped up especially on the side where it's going to be blowing the air versus sucking the air. Any pinholes or leaks on this side, it's going to be forcing air out, whereas on this side, it's going to be drawing the air in, so you're going to less likely to have any leaks on this side. But if you don't have those sealed up, it is going to reduce the amount of airflow coming out at the end of your pipe with your laser. So now this fan is, it's got a remote control on it. So I've got it plugged into the wall here, and then it has, I don't know, I think it's about 16 to 20 feet of cable. So you see, I've just kind of temporarily run it up along here. And when we get back to the other side, I'll show you the actual control, but it's a dial, goes from 0 to 100. And so you can adjust the speed on it. It does take a little bit of time to spin up. I would say takes a little bit longer than others. So you do want to factor that in, is maybe just get it going about 10 seconds before you start your job. But at that point, it seems to keep up pretty well. So let's move on down the line. I'll show you how I've done some of the support and clamping of the pipes. Okay, so the fan has its own bracket that mounts the wall, and I used this plywood backer piece to make sure I got a good grab onto it. The plywood's into the studs, and then the mounting bracket is just held down with 4 screws into the backer, and that gave me a solid place to mount it. But that does bring it out from the wall just a little bit more. And I could just have supported the pipe with some pipe straps, and then I've got them anchored in. Basically, there's a stud here, then I've gone down another 2 studs and put the one on the side there. And that would have worked fine, but you know, this is a laser shop, I've got the tools, I figured why not make some of my own clamps. So as you can probably see here, I've got some pipe clamps, and here's an extra one right here. This is all made out of 1/4 inch plywood. So I have a backer piece that I went ahead and put some pilot holes in so that I could mount it with screws. And then I have this kind of cut in half where there's a little bit of extra gap here. It's a little bit larger than 4 inches. My thought there was that I could use some of like the window or door foam, the back sticky back stuff that would go in here. The stuff that I got was actually a little too stiff and it wouldn't compress. And I haven't found yet that I've needed it, but that would just provide a little bit of dampening, some insulation, and make sure that the pipe isn't resting right on the wood and transferring any vibrations in there. But we'll see if that's an issue. I can get some other stuff, but so I have a little bit of wiggle room in there. But then I just have some 1/4 bolts, top and bottom here. And I actually split this to where if you have a wing nut on this side and you have a notch in this bottom hole, you can open it up, set your pipe in, and then bring this back down into the bolt and then tighten it down to lock it in place. That makes it a lot easier to service this if I need to move the pipe around a little bit or need to get it out of there. Just made it easier for installation. But these are just cut out of 1/4 inch plywood on the S1, glued together with some wood glue and CA, and they're working pretty well. So you could use stove bolts like this top one. You just have to cut that circle into a square and let it sink in. Otherwise, you can just use normal carriage bolts or just straight 1/4 bolts and wing nuts. And anyway, I thought that was a pretty good way to do this. It's holding it well and it'll allow me to adjust it around as needed. So this is one, I think it's about a 5-foot piece of pipe, and there are different fittings that you can buy for them. And I wanted to have the option for 2 different ones. And so I ended up getting this Y fitting and tapping this in midpoint. So I had to cut a hole into the pipe, and I used a step down drill bit to kind of drill into the pipe, and then started trying to use some shears. That wasn't working too well. Ended up just kind of cutting it out with my cordless jigsaw and a metal blade. Once I got that cut out, put the self-tapping screws in, and then taped it all down with the aluminum flashing tape. And that seems to be holding it pretty well. And from there, then I have some of these 4-inch blast gates that are used, that I used to use in some of my dust collection, but I had some extras, so I thought I'd try them on here. And this just allows me to close and open as needed. I wasn't sure if this was going to be enough to exhaust both of these at the same time, so I wanted to be able to turn them off and block off most of the air going from one and just direct it to the other, or vice versa. And then from there, I just have as short a segment of this kind of flexible pipe as possible. I've got that on the back of this S1 going into a 3D printed adapter, so that's up to a full 4-inch exhaust port. using this straight, smooth pipe is far more efficient than using this flexible pipe. These ribs and just the varying surface of there cause a lot of turbulence in there and will cut down the efficiency of your fan. So I wanted to keep those as short as possible. You can see here, it's about 4 to 6 inches there, and that helps cut down on any turbulence that's added from that. So then I just kind of extended it down, and then on the end of the other one, I just have it at the end of the pipe. I may do a Y connector there or kind of angle it down and cut that back a little bit. But so far this is nice. I can just manually open or close those as needed. So as I mentioned, I have it coming over off to the end. We have our other blast gate here into some flexible pipe. Again, on the back of the P2, went ahead and 3D printed up a 4-inch port, and I actually even removed the exhaust fan that's built into the P2. That comes out fairly easy. They have a connector, and then you can disable that fan in XCS. And since I knew I would have a lot more air movement from this fan than the internal one, I went ahead and disabled that and moved it out of the way. You can leave it in there, but if you're having that fan run at a slower speed than the air is pulling there, it can actually act more as a wind sail or a brake than it does to help accelerate the air, because it's trying to move it slower than that fan is. So I wanted to move that out of there. I haven't looked to see how well the one from the S1 can come out, so that one is still in there and running. But you can disable it in XCS, and so that might help or might hinder, but the fan still being in there, is obviously an obstruction. So in this case, having the inline fan, it's going to pull more air from either one or both of these. So my preference is to be able to disable those and get any obstructions out of the way. Now, I haven't figured out exactly where I want this, but this is the speed control for the fan. So it's just a rotary knob, and as you can see, it's coming all the way over here. There's about 8 to 10 feet from the fan over to the end here, and then this is like another 5 or so feet, and I still have it bundled up. So, Han and Guang gave us a lot of flexibility with this speed control as to where we put it. And like I say, I can turn it on, turn it up to 100, and it does take a little bit for the fan to spin up. So it's starting to pull air now, but it's still not at full speed. And you might be able to hear it still winding up. And about now is when it sounds like it's at full speed. So like I say, it's probably a good 10 seconds where the air is gonna the fan's gonna come to speed, it's gonna get that air moving. So just something that I need to remember in my workflow for this. The other thing I need to remember in my workflow is to make sure that I open up the blast gates. The first time I went to test it, when I hooked it up to the S1 after having it hooked onto the P2, I forgot to open up the blast gate. So I got done, I was like, oh, it didn't feel like it pulled all the smoke out. I thought it wasn't gonna work, and then I realized, no, I just forgot to open up the blast gate. So that's where having your workflow, having your checklist before you do your jobs can help you, especially when you're changing some things. Now, one other thing that I also ended up needing to do is I had originally designed these with about 1 inch of spacing off of here, going off of what I figured the fan was going to be mounted at. But when I added that backer board, it kind of put the pipe at a weird angle. So I actually just ended up cutting some spacers that line up with the back of these, and again, cut those pilot holes in so I can basically just stack them out and bring it out as needed. So just means you got to use some longer screws, but the holes all line up and they act as just nice spacers on there. So that was one little thing that was kind of an afterthought, just needed to correct it quick, but that's a beautiful thing about having these lasers. It was really easy to make these and add them on. So that was all the theory and the build out of this. I have tested this out. It seems to be working okay. I'll do a quick demonstration here for you. You may notice I have my X-Tool F1 sitting over here. I still have the smoke purifier sitting next to it, which I don't want to use as often as I like to save that for when I'm going to shows and such. So I may actually add another tap into this that I can block off and pipe it down to the 2.5 or so inch pipe that comes off of there. That way I can vent that out as well. But my thought here is I want to be able to have this set up kind of permanently for more of my production lasers that I'm using more day in and day out for jobs and projects, and then have my assembly table and maybe another workbench more for testing. I'll still need to figure out how to vent those, but this will allow me to stay productive, have things in a permanent place, and not have to move these out of the way when I go to test a new laser or work on a new project that isn't part of these. Okay, so I am actually running the beta version of XCS 2.0. One of the nice things with the X-Tool lasers and XCS 2.0 is they've added a lot of cool features to it, including the ability to run multiple machines from one instance, one computer. So I'm finally able to run both of those from XCS and use their full capabilities versus having to run one in Lightburn and maybe missing out on some of the functionalities of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and just set up some simple jobs for engraving my logo. We'll see how they run and see if the smoke gets expelled and keeps my shop air clean. So I've got both of them running. I got the P2 doing an engraving of my logo as well as the S1. Both of them are creating smoke. Because of the covers on these, this one's glass and this one is acrylic. They kind of reflect the lights in the shop, so it's sometimes kind of hard to see the smoke. But I'm gonna also try to do a cut job after this, and that should hopefully show a little extra smoke. But they both are exhausting pretty well. You can see it more on the P2 than the S1 right now, and but I'm not seeing a buildup of smoke. It is moving out, and the P2 is the noisiest thing on right now. I actually can't hear the fan noise at this point. I'm hearing all the noise from the P2, just a little bit from the S1. So as far as the noise with that fan, standing by itself running, yes, you can hear it, but it's nothing that's going to be deafening or whatnot. P2 is far more louder than anything of that. So I'm gonna let these finish up and we'll check them out at the end. Okay, so I also ran the cut jobs. I tried to get some video there of the smoke getting extracted with those as well. But again, it's kind of hard to capture those, and I can't open these lids while these are running, and that would kind of defeat the purpose of it. So, but the good news is at the end of each job, there wasn't really any smoke lingering in the enclosure other than, your typical 3 to 5 seconds, and it was all being pulled out. Now, I can close one of these off and I definitely see a slight increase in maybe the smoke moving to the exit a little bit faster, but the fact that it's not building up and lingering in there is really what my goal is. I truly believe that if I upgraded this to a 6-inch pipe on the outlet so that I wasn't choking it down so much, and possibly even along here, I'd probably improve the airflow a little bit, and then that would be maximizing it better to each machine. But I'm pleasantly happy to see that I can at least run both of these, doing both engravings and cut jobs running at the same time, and if absolutely needed to, I can close one off with the blast gates. So that is what I've been up to the past few weeks. I've been working on getting this exhaust system set up, getting things shuffled around, but I'm very happy that that fan from Han & Guan is working well to pull from both machines, even when I'm choking it down to 4 inches. I do hope to get this set up on 6-inch piping as appropriate. We'll open up that airflow, make it even more efficient, but in the meantime, this is going to work out great. It's going to allow me to focus on those two machines for some more projects and some products that I need to get out, and but still have room off to the side here to continue to play around with new equipment and new ideas as well. So I thank you for watching this. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those down below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. I do videos like this where I kind of show you my setup in the shop. I try to do some instructional videos with it. I do product reviews and also projects to help you get better ideas of how to play with various machines and equipment in your workshop. I will have links down below to the various things, from the fans to the lasers and some of the equipment used in there. Some of those will be affiliate links, and those do give me a small kickback to support my channel at no extra cost to you. So As always, I appreciate you using those, but no pressure. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got some good out of it. But most importantly, I hope you can get out in your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.